Hey, sports fans, welcome on in. It is the Down and Dirty with Scott Mitchell. So glad you could join our show today. As always, it's Friday. We're going to have fun today, as we always do every day. But Friday is just a very, very fun day. It's fantastic Fridays. It's football Fridays. It's frenetic Fridays. It's all those adjectives that start with F. So let's get the effing going right now with the Down and Dirty and our show. We got a good one today. I'm actually going to, I saw this thing I thought would be about creating the perfect 17-0 team with current players. So we're going to do that today. Free agency is right around the corner. Talk a lot about that. And of course, some crazy NFL news of notes and other things that are happening in the world of sports. So anyway, sit back, get down, let's get dirty. And here we go. All right. Martin he asked me a question about what was free agency like? And I'm going to go back in time, tell a little story, tell a little bit of what my experience was with free agency. It's significant and probably long forgotten and totally fine with me, but it was quite a moment. It was a life-changing moment for me. It was an exciting time in the NFL. It was new. It was different. A lot of people didn't know what would come of free agency. There's probably a lot of debate about whether it was a good or a bad thing, but it is. And it is what it is. And part of why it is because you should be able to do that. Before there was free agency, there were all these different iterations of how long a team could hold a player in and have the rights to that player in their organization. So if they didn't have a contract, they didn't have an agreement with that player, the player still was under the control of each organization. And people said that's unfair. This isn't the American way. This isn't how our system of commerce, our economic system and how things are is not. That's not how it is. It's called a free market system, and so if you have the ability to go out and negotiate for whatever the fair market value is for you and your services, and it was proven out in the courts, and so free agency started. And I happened to be at the very beginning of free agency. It was a very exciting time for me. I had been behind a legendary quarterback, and so I never got to play. And so who knew what my value was? Who knew what my worth was? I finally got a chance to play, show that I could play in the NFL, and then I became a free agent. And it was really quite an experience. There wasn't a lot of like history with it, or there wasn't a lot of you could go talk to people and say, hey, so how was it like, what do you do, what's your strategy, what's the idea behind this? I had a great agent. I think we came up with an excellent strategy. It worked phenomenally, and it really boils down to, from my position, it's really any position in the NFL, there's always a team that feels they need something: a quarterback, a running back, a lineman, a defensive end, a cornerback. And they go, if we could just have that piece, that would really solidify and make our team just something remarkable, right? So there's always this desire and nice is a thing. There have been some great free agents, things that have worked out very well, some that haven't. But it's certainly what should happen and did happen for me. So in my situation, I was with the Miami Dolphins, and they at the time made me an offer. They said, "Look, you can come back here as a quarterback," and they were going to pay me $1.5 million a year to be a backup quarterback in the NFL in 1993, which was unheard of money. I mean, I think the highest paid at the time might have been $700,000. Probably with someone like Steve Young, who was backing up Joe Montana at the time. Frank Reich was another highly regarded backup quarterback in the NFL, and so they were going to offer me. It was like $3 million over 3 years, and I think that my salary was somewhere in the neighborhood of it was like $1.5 million. It might have been a little bit more than that, but that's what it averaged out to be. And it was tempting. It was really tempting. And it was tempting just simply because, you typically are going to go to a team and they don't have a quarterback, it can kind of be a tough situation. And so there were 5 teams that I went out and I said, that's a nice offer, and I will I'll consider it. But I strongly considered it because I loved playing in Miami. I loved it. I loved the structure. I loved my teammates. I loved the weather. I loved, the Miami Dolphins was at the time was it was really cool to be with the Miami Dolphins. And I was very comfortable and very familiar there. And I had really established roots. Wherever I played in the NFL, I made the decision to live there year round. So it wasn't like I came in for the season and I left. I just felt like that continuity and that security was like one of the things that would help you have more success wherever you live. So I lived in Miami. It was great. It's fun, young. There's just a lot of exciting things about it. I think the year before was the very first year, and that's when Reggie White signed from Philadelphia to Green Bay, and that was a huge shock because I don't think anyone thought Reggie White would ever leave Philadelphia, and I don't think it was they probably totally regret it to the end of this day. He was a very big presence for the Packers and was able to win a Super Bowl. So it was a great move for Reggie White. Had to deal with Reggie White for 5 years when I played in Detroit, and he was a load and he was a problem. But so the next year, I become a free agent, and there's all these teams that are interested, and so we set up trips, visits to go to all of these teams. So the first team was the Detroit Lions, and part of going to Detroit first was it kind of felt like that was the first option. That was probably the best situation to get into, considering the makeup of the team. This was a team that had been to the NFC Championship a couple of years earlier, had a really good, offensive line, good core of skill players, and had a really solid defense, and felt like they were kind of in the right direction. So then the other team was the Chicago Bears and the Minnesota Vikings. So all 3 of these teams are in the NFC North. So I'm basically going on a tour, other than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, of the NFC North, and all these teams were good at that time. They weren't great, but they were competitive. They were on the verge of winning. So they weren't a lot of losing teams. So there was Detroit, Minnesota, Chicago, and then the other 2 teams were the Los Angeles Rams at the time and the New Orleans Saints. Now, there's a famous sports writer, Peter King, who asked to have access. So Peter King followed us around. I would actually meet in my hotel room with Peter King, and I was very candid with him and very open, and so I had this dynamic with a reporter, and he followed us around, which I thought was really nice on my part to give him that kind of access. It wasn't reciprocated. I'm not a big fan of Peter King, and just didn't appreciate some of the things that he said down the road. And I don't know, it was extremely disappointing, considering I thought I had what I considered developed a very good relationship, and certainly got blindsided by kind of his comments and his direction down the road, which I'll get into in a bit. But regardless, so I have a reporter following me around, like, and like we're hanging out, and so it was very interesting. And I was, I was young, and I was all excited about everything, and thought I was all that, and so I'm not going to lie, it was a very ego boosting experience to be so courted by all of these teams. So I go to Detroit, and so I'm sitting in the office of Kevin Colbert. So Kevin Colbert was the pro personnel director for the Detroit Lions, and the first meeting I have is with Kevin Colbert. And in the meeting, Kevin's like, and Kevin's a great guy, and has been massively successful in his career, retired now, but he He left the Lions after a few years, quite a few years, and went to the Pittsburgh Steelers, became the general manager of the Steelers, and was part of them winning Super Bowls with the Steelers. But Kevin's a great guy, really good human being, very good at his job. And I'm sitting in a meeting with with Kevin, and he says, "Look," he goes, "We're interested in two guys. Okay, we're interested in Eric Kramer, who was here, and we would sign, and we would like to sign Eric back, but we would also like to sign you. So we don't know how this free agent thing works, but I'm going to be just completely upfront with you and tell you what the situation is, and be candid, and just let you know we're looking at you and Eric Kramer." And I kid you not, as the words Eric Kramer came out of his mouth, someone came into the meeting, interrupted it, and said, "Mr. Agnone," Tony Agnone, my agent, says, we have a phone call for you, and it's urgent." So my agent leaves the room, comes back after a few minutes, and kind of has this kind of wry, like the cat that ate the canary smile on his face. And he whispers into my ear, and he says, "Eric Kramer just visited the Chicago Bears, and he's going to sign with the Bears." And so we told Kevin in the meeting, and that changed the whole dynamic of how I was pursued by the Detroit Lions. At that point, it became, "You're our guy. End of discussion. We're going after you, and we're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that we get you." And so I went to, so I had this visit, and they take you around and show you places to live. And it was really hard for me to do that. And it was hard because South Florida is so warm and so green and so wonderful. And Michigan at that time of year was so cold, so ugly, so barren. And Michigan's not an ugly place, but the thought of moving in different places, that was probably a harder thing for me than I realized. So then my next trip was to the Minnesota Vikings. It was supposed to be the Chicago Bears, but they were now off the market. So now one guy drops, and I start getting phone calls from Bernie Kosar, who was a longtime Cleveland Browns quarterback, and Bernie wanted to go back to the Miami Dolphins. So Bernie's calling me, he goes like, "Man, what are you going to do? I need to know what you're going to do, because if you come back here," because that option was still available to me. So anyway, so I start having conversations with him, and it's just a very, very intriguing time, kind of how the dominoes tumble. It's like there's kind of a pecking order of teams and players, and all of these things, happen in a certain fashion. And so a lot of it at the time, because I was considered the top free agent that year. And so a lot of teams were, wanted my services. So I go to Minnesota, and Minnesota has, they have Tony Dungy is the defensive coordinator. They have Brian Billick, who's the offensive coordinator. Dennis Green is the head coach, and Tom Moore at the time was the quarterback coach for the Minnesota Vikings. Well, in my time in Minnesota, he left. Like literally, it's almost when I show up to Minnesota, and he became the passing coordinator, assistant offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. So literally, it's almost like two ships passing in the night. And Tom said to me, if you don't go to Minnesota, I think it's a really good thing, but I'm not going to tell you why. If you go there, I don't think it's a great fit for you. I'm just going to tell you that up front, but I'm not going to tell you why. You got to make your own choices. You got to make all those decisions. And he didn't badmouth anyone. He didn't say anything bad about, anyone. He just said, "I don't think it's a good fit for you." So I go to Minnesota, and they have this huge notebook, and they've laid out everything in the world of why I was the top pick in free agency. They did all this statistical analysis, how I'd been the top quarterback in the NFL the year before. And it was extremely impressive. It was very impressive what they had done. and they said, "We want you." Like I felt of all of the teams that I was a free agent, that the Minnesota Vikings wanted me more than any other team. And but there was just something about it that just didn't feel right. It was just strange. And I don't know if it was what Tom Moore had talked to me about, whatever, but there was just something, wasn't quite there. And so I went on visits to the Rams and to the New Orleans Saints, and I knew I wasn't going to those teams. And I remember saying to my agent, "Why do we have to do this? Why do I have?" And he goes, You go and you sing and you act like this is the place that you want to go above anything else." And it was all about leverage, So I went, and I just could never in a million years see myself playing for the New Orleans Saints, living in New Orleans. I know I just not my cup of tea. It's just not my cup of tea. And no, ill will to New Orleans, but just yeah, one of my least favorite places to see, visit, go to in America. I don't care how good beignets are, not my thing. Now I know other parts of Louisiana, nice, this, that, whatever, and that's fine. But that part of it just didn't get my attention. So, and then I went to Los Angeles, and I think of all the teams, Los Angeles just felt the most dysfunctional. Just didn't feel like Chuck 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 Knox was the coach. So I'm having a conversation in Marina Del Rey in Los Angeles, California, on the rooftop of some hotel there, and it was cool. I mean, and we had a great conversation, and but I just knew it wasn't a fit. But I just kind of had to play the game. So it got down to between Detroit and Minnesota, and it was really a tough choice. There was a huge article in Sports Illustrated about, kind of me and where I was going, and they did this whole thing, and Peter King and all of his deal, and so it was pretty spectacular, the experience. I'm not going to lie, it was fun to be courted, but it was also really important. And the bottom line, really, because it was kind of sixes as far as personnel. So you have Chris Carter, you have Herman Moore, you have Robert Smith, you have Barry Sanders, you have, kind of the whole, and it just felt to me like Detroit just had a little bit more. But on top of it, Detroit got really serious, and they gave me a huge signing bonus. And signing bonuses are significant because that's the real investment a team has in you, is a signing bonus. And Minnesota just couldn't do it, and they wouldn't do it. And I think had they come up to match the same number in the signing bonus, I would have gone to Minnesota, probably, just because of how it happened. Now looking back now, Minnesota would have been the worst place to go. And Tom Moore was right, and he was right, and it was the system that they ran offensively, and it would not have fit me at all. I went to Baltimore. I experienced that offense with Brian Billick, and was not my thing at all, not at all. And I very simply can tell you, so I'll just give you a real quick example of why. When I played for the Miami Dolphins, our offense never changed. It just adjusted based off of what the defense was doing. So you always were in a good play. You hear Peyton Manning talk all the time. I just want answers. If they do this, what's the answer? Where do I go? What do I do? And that was what was so beautiful about that offense, is that plays were designed in a way that you had answers. So you could run the same play and it didn't matter, because you had multiple places to go with the football, or you could change the play if you saw something from the defense that you really liked. It was actually required of you to do that. Whereas with the Brian Billick's offense, he basically was creating a new offense every week. So you would have new plays. It's like I just remember going, man, where can we ever get good at anything if we're always practicing new things and changing things up all the time? And it was just really hard to get any kind of confidence, to get any kind of chemistry, any kind of continuity with the players on the team, because you were practicing new things all the time, and it was really very frustrating to me, and it wouldn't have not been a very good thing, because in Detroit we set record. I mean, we really dialed it in with our offense and what we were doing there, and that was a great thing. So it was really quite a whirlwind experience And but here's the part that always gets me, and I guess it's okay to share this. I certainly don't want people to take it the wrong way. I'm just being candid about, I grew up in a small town in Utah, and I went and played on the biggest stage in the world, and I had, experienced things I never imagined I would experience. So it was incredibly awesome to play professional football. But so I'm gonna go to Detroit, but I find out that Wayne Fonts doesn't really want me. Like, I'm not his guy, and he wanted Warren Moon. And Warren, Hall of Famer, but at the time, Warren Moon was, it was kind of questionable about, is his career kind of winding down, and so Wayne Fonts had to come to Florida. We had to have a sit down, and he basically had to, say, "You're my guy," and all this stuff. And I don't know that I ever believed it. Quite frankly, I never believed it when I was in Detroit, that I was Wayne's guy, and it's disappointing. I really wanted that. I wanted a coach that said, "I believe in you," and I always felt like he was trying to get rid of me. He was trying to look for a way to go in a different direction. The way the Lions made decisions, and how, the coach didn't necessarily have that kind of control on things. And the personnel people in Detroit were great. They were phenomenal, and they vetted that out, how good they were. Kevin Colbert knew me from my time in Miami and knew what I was capable of. And so so Wayne Fonts got on board with it, I think. But regardless, I just, really felt really good about going to Detroit. And they came to Florida and they gave me my signing bonus. And so up to that point in my career, NFL players didn't make a lot of money at that time. I want to say, I think Dan Marino was probably making $1 million a year. And I don't think that was my rookie year. It might've been a couple of years into my time there, where they redid his contract, and it wasn't a lot of money. And so they write me a check, and the check was for $5 million, and they handed it to me. And I'm looking at this check, and I'm like, I have never seen so many zeros in my life. And that was the first thing that stuck in my mind when I saw it. It's like there's just zeros. There's zeros and commas and zeros and commas, and there's dots and more zeros. And it looked like nothing I'd ever seen in my life. You get a check for, $23.45, and then I get this big check. And then so I'm like, holy cow, I can't believe this. This is amazing. And it was really exciting. It just was. I'm just telling you how it was. It was just very exciting. And then the next thought I had, so I'm like, a lot of zeros. And then it's like, what's it doing sitting here in my hand? Like, I don't want to lose this. Like, I don't want someone to steal it from me. I don't want to, what if someone finds out that, and immediately I'm freaked out. I'm like, we got to put this in the bank. And I want to say it was I had to hold the check for 2 or 3 days. And I did not like that. I did not like that at all. And so I finally put the check in the bank. Now at the time, my tax situation. So I would go almost an entire year before I'd have to pay money on those taxes, and that I'd reached I'd reached my previous year tax responsibility. So I didn't have to pay any tax on it for almost a year. And I remember later on writing a check to the IRS. So, the excitement of a bunch of zeros has worn off by now. It's a year later. I played 1 year with the Lions, and I'm doing my taxes for the previous year, and I had to write a check to the IRS. And so I'm writing out, because you write out the number side of it, and then you write out the words. And the word part of it was so long that I had to write it, and then I had to turn the check and write and turn it again. And I was writing kind of across the check and down the check and around the check, just to give the IRS its proper due of my signing bonus. And that really cemented in my mind the reality of, Man, it is exciting. It is very exciting, but it is not exciting when you have to pay Uncle Sam and you realize how much of that actually goes away, which I've shared with people in the past and probably continue to share it. You know, you see these humongous contracts, and the reality is you only see half of them. So free agency, wild, crazy, an unbelievable experience, and something, you know, I think everyone in their life needs to go through if they play in the NFL. And some guys won't, but and the reason they won't is because they're really good, and they get, you know, they get extensions, which happened to me. I did get an extension later on. We can talk about that on another day. Anyways, hope you enjoyed that. Free agency's around the corner. Legal tampering starts Monday, so you can actually talk to people without penalty here, which is so weird. We've got a fun thing coming up here after the break. I'm gonna give you my version of a 17-0 team from players who are in the league today. So if these guys were all on a team, they would not lose. You want to hear about that? More when the Down and Dirty returns.
The Pete Souza Show, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. You want to talk NFL draft? I don't know. How about we get you Todd McShay? You want to talk Big 12? We can get you the commissioner. Somebody about the Cowboys? How about we have on the owner, Stephen Jones? Pop culture? Michelle Beadle. I mean, we will bring on the people that you want to hear from. And these people don't join us because of me. They join us because of you. You got to watch this show, okay? It's got everything you need. Sports, hijinks, laughs. Did I mention hijinks? We'll see you on the Pete Souza Show. Now, we are under the 365 Sports umbrella. Check it out. I'm wearing a Tulane shirt. No idea why.
It's the Pete Souza Show. Sports, Pete.
Tervis is all about staying hydrated with style and durability. You can trust Tervis tumblers to keep your drinks the perfect temperature, hot or cold, for hours. From the classic insulated tumblers to sleek stainless steel water bottles, each product is built to last and comes in endless designs to match your personality. Stay refreshed and express yourself with Tervis. Visit tervis.com today and find your perfect tumbler.
Sports don't stop, and neither do we. Welcome to 365 Sports, your home for real conversations, original shows, and coverage that lives where sports actually happen. Join David Smoke, Craig Smoke, and myself, Paul Catalina, for in-depth interviews and local stories to the moments national media misses. 365 Sports brings you the voices, debates, and perspectives fans care about every single day. Subscribe now on YouTube, search 365 Sports, and never miss a moment, because sports aren't seasonal. They're 365.
Hey, sports fans, welcome back. Scott Mitchell here, Down and Dirty, having fun, keeping it down and dirty. Thank you for joining. Like and subscribe, do all that fun stuff. And we're going to talk about sports my style, my way. I did it my way. Anyways, hope you enjoy it. And I really do. I really appreciate you being a part of what we do. I thought it would be fun. And I saw this experiment, and it was with current players, and it was a watered down version of this. But if you picked certain players in the NFL today, it was kind of a fun way that they did it. They had this little like speed dial or spinner, and they had all 32 logos going, and you had to pick the player from whatever logo showed up, and they didn't do the whole team. Well, I don't have a little spinner to do all of the logos, so I'm gonna do my own version of picking current players. If you picked this team, they would go 17-0. They would not lose. So I'm gonna go through each position, tell you who I think putting a team together would create the very best unlosable team in the NFL. So here we go. So we're gonna start with a quarterback, and I don't even think that's like a hard choice, a medium choice, or it's just Patrick Mahomes, right? And I think everyone agrees, and everyone goes, it's Pat. You know, you don't even have to get past that. You don't even have to call last name. You don't even have to do anything. You don't even have to say, hey, he's with the Kansas City Chiefs. You don't have to explain. You just go, it's Pat. That's the QB, and it's hard pressed to say, you know, who do you put in there that's better, you just don't. I mean, you just don't. So now wide receiver, that's always an interesting choice. A lot of really good wide receivers in the NFL, and I think you're going to be a little surprised by my picks here. But I'm going to go with it. This was my gut, and I'm going to do it. There, I did have a debate out of one guy, and now Puka in, and Puka there. Puka is an immense talent, and boy, they have just really got the most out of him. And you know, and statistically, he's a leader in the league and just done some phenomenal things. But there's something there that I don't know. I'm just going with my gut here. So Jamar Chase, wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals, is my one wide receiver, and my other wide receiver, Jackson Smith and Jigma. I think he's on the verge of, and I think he did like the absolute most he could in the situation in Seattle. They won a Super Bowl, but I do think he's on the verge of being considered number one potentially in all of the NFL. Where it's staggering the success he had with kind of the you know, Seattle wasn't a throwing football team per se, and he certainly took a lot. And now I watched Jackson Smith and Jigma when he was with the Ohio State Buckeyes in the Rose Bowl, and I'm like, ooh, this dude is good. So there you have it. There's my two wide receivers. The running back, this is a challenging one, and I really had a debate over two guys, and it was Saquon, who's been phenomenal, and he's just a real talent, right? And so I don't think you can go wrong with him, but I really like Christian McCaffrey as well, and I like Christian McCaffrey only because of the versatility of what he is and who he is. But if I'm just saying, okay, running back, and I believe running backs in the NFL are more, need to be more, and their value to me is pretty high if they can do more, and certainly Christian McCaffrey can do that. But man, as a pure runner, as a pure running back, as a guy, I just went with Saquon. It was a dilemma, it was a challenge, it was debatable, it was a tough thing. Now tight end. Tight end is a fascinating one as well, and it's become such a more intricate role in offenses than it has been. These tight ends are much more dynamic in what they do and what they can do, and you know, where, you know, between blocking, between passing, and they don't have to block as much as maybe they did in the past. So it kind of changes the type of player. Travis Kelce is kind of on the downward swing of things. So it was, you know, I'm not going on sentimental picks. I'm going on where they are today. There's a lot of good young up and coming tight ends, but the guy I think if I had to put him in there right now would be George Kittle with the San Francisco 49ers. And he's really good. He's really good at, I think, everything. He's a really good blocker. He's a really good teammate. He's a really good wide receiver. He's just, I think, probably the best tight end in all of the NFL. Now, the offensive line was a bit of a challenge, and their offensive line, I think, is in some ways a little bit subjective, you know, because you have your guys that you really like, and so it's a tough one. So the guy who I think is high on everyone's boards is we'll just go with tackles, is Tristan Wirfs with the Bucks. Amazing talent, very good. There's some really good tackles. This was kind of hard in a lot of ways. So I went with him. I went with Penei Sewell in Detroit. I know guys are going to be the Philadelphia Eagles and Zane Johnson and Jordan Maya Lata and anyway, so that's why I don't care. It's my show. It's my team. It's like one of those. It's like, man, you're not going to lose with these guys. And Creed Humphrey at center, and then Quinn Menares at Denver, and Chris Lindstrom with Atlanta. And guys that they're guys that I really like in their ability to both run and pass block, and I think these guys do it better than anyone else. So there you have my is that all my offensive guys? I believe it is. So let's pop over to the defense now. Actually, you know what? I want to bring Martin in. So Martin, are you awake? Did I wake you up out of bed? Can we have you join the show for a minute?
I'm always wide and awake, ready to join the show.
See, I would love to catch Martin like he's coming out of the bathroom. You hear the toilet flush. That's when I want to bring Martin on the show. And I'm like, hey, what have you been up to there, Martin?
You know what? I'm gonna add that sound effect to my phone, and I'm gonna have it ready for the next time you do that to me.
By the way, speaking of really bad sound effects, it sounded like a toilet. When I was in Detroit, they had the lion roar, and the acoustics in the stadium were drowned out the lion. So when the lion roared, it literally sounded like someone was flushing the toilet.
Oh man,
for years I didn't know that that's what it was, and I'm like, what is that awful toilet flushing sound? And I was thinking like, yeah, we just flushed him down the toilet, like we really got after him. And I was just going with it, and then I found out it was actually a very drowned out lion roaring after we did something quite well. So you've heard my list so far. Peruse through my list and go, yeah, I think you got it right there. No, that was bad. Or you're right on the spot. You feeling good about what I have right now, or no?
I think you're about 99.5% there. I think the running back makes sense, tight end makes sense, O-line makes sense, quarterback obviously makes sense. One of your two wide receivers makes sense, but I understand why you chose both receivers.
Who doesn't?
Because obviously the two best receivers in the NFL is Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase.
Oh,
I mean, those are the two best.
So
but
you like Justin Jefferson.
Jamar Chase is the dominant one, and Jason Smith. Yeah, I love Jefferson.
I can't
and I'm a Bears fan. Okay,
I like your pick.
But to compliment you, what I was about to say was to compliment you. You brought in Jackson Smith-Njigba, who could play as a 2, who could take pressure off the defense and help out, and can be the guy that says, okay, I'll get 1,100 yards. I'll get 8 or 9 touchdowns. I don't need the 1,700 yards and 15 touchdowns. I could be cool with this, pair up with Jamar Chase. So you structured it very well as a team-wise, and I have to give it to you. This is very smart.
Actually, Jackson Smith-Njigba, I think, is an emerging guy. I'm almost like betting his future, because I just think he's kind of scratching the surface about how good he. But I can always throw in an extra one because we just go 3 wide, right? Because we only have one running back. So, I'll go with Jefferson as the number 3. I like that pick. All right, I feel good with that.
Yeah,
this one was hard. So the defensive line actually was hard for me, and it's hard because there's a lot of really good guys, and there's a lot of good guys on like the Houston Texans that are, as a collective group, you go, man, these guys are so good, and everyone acknowledges that that's just a really good defense. And so, is it the parts put together that makes it so great, or is it just individually are they really great? And that influenced my decision. So I'm going to go with my Myles Garrett and Willie Anderson Jr. as my defensive ends, and I guess and I did it just because I felt like I had to have someone on the from the Houston Texans. Now the tackles, I went with Dexter Lawrence and Quinnen Williams from the Jets. So I took a New York perspective on that. Any thoughts on the D-line?
I love this D-line. Myles Garrett, Willie Anderson. Willie gets to learn under Myles Garrett, who I think is obviously the best pass rusher in the game right now. Dexter Lawrence and Quentin Williams, no one's running through that. No one is beating that at all. They're going to have -5 yards on run right there. I think those two are, again, I'll praise it and compliment it more over the top. But those two to me are the best defensive tackles in the game. Obviously, you can go with Jalen Carter, but I think Jalen is not there yet. I think he's on the rise. I think Jalen will be one of the best, if not the best, defensive tackle in the game. But for a strong veteran lineup plus a up and coming pass rusher that I think one day could pass JJ Watt's record in Houston, this is very, very scary and a solid line.
You have like a guy like TJ Watt. You have Aiden Hutchinson with the Lions. You've got
Max Crosby.
Yeah. See, I don't know how you pick them. That's
Micah Parsons. I mean,
yeah,
Micah
right. I mean, how do you pick them? I mean, that's really where I got to. I don't know. I just picked someone off the Houston Texans, and I picked Myles Garrett, who I think Myles Garrett is the guy above everyone else for sure. Okay, linebacker. I had Fred Warner and Zach Bond. Now, Fred was kind of injured at a certain point last year, but Zach Bond graded out as the top linebacker in the NFL. Had a very successful breakout season, if you might add. And those were my two linebackers. I probably could have picked more linebackers, but I just went with two.
I'm gonna say yes to Fred Warner. There's no argument that he's the very best linebacker in the game. I'm gonna argue against Zach Bond, and I'm gonna replace him with Devin Lloyd. I think Devin took a huge step in Jacksonville. I think his coverage grade was up there. I think the fact that he was able to have so many turnovers in a positive way for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He had a couple interceptions last season. He's going to get paid. He's going to get paid like a top linebacker. I think Devin Lloyd is on the rise significantly. I like Zach Bond, but this past season he was just up and down with the Eagles. But I think Devin Lloyd deserves a praise too. I think if you're going to build a team, I think an all Utah team with obviously the BYU player, but from the state of Utah, I think that's the better way to go.
Wow, look at you. All right. You're a bold soul. Devin Lloyd did make a huge upgrade from where he was for sure. That there's no question about that. He looked lost to me, Devin Lloyd, early on in his career. And something just kind of clicked in. I don't know if it's the defense and what they're asking him to do, or if he's seeing things better, or playing free. I don't know, but definitely a change player. That's a bold pick though. All right, strong safety, CJ Gardner-Johnson. Any thoughts on that?
I'm not going to argue with CJ Gardner-Johnson. He came in for the Bears halfway through the season, helped us get to a playoff win. No question out of there. He's got a lot of swagger to him, that's for sure. He doesn't like to keep his mouth shut, but when he puts his head down and goes hits and picks off a couple players, he knows what he's doing.
Free safety, Antoine Winfield Jr. He of course plays with the Bucks. Thoughts on that one? You like him? Huh?
I like Winfield Jr. Obviously, you played pretty sure against his dad, Winfield Sr. And I mean, he was a phenomenal player. If I'm just going off of stats or what last season was, I'm gonna pick a homer pick. I take Kevin Byard. Obviously, the 7 interceptions, with the Chicago Bears was the number 1 in the NFL. Byard played pretty well for an old veteran that he is, but I'm not gonna argue against Antoine Winfield Jr. He's a solid safety. He knows how to hit. He knows how to pick. He's got the Super Bowl ring. I mean, he's the full package you want back there in your center field position. Okay,
at cornerback, I have Patrick Surtain, the second. What's funny is we got juniors, we got seconds, we got these are players who their parents were pretty freaking good.
Yeah, they were.
Should tell you something right there. So cornerback Patrick Surtain the second, and Devin Witherspoon from Seattle. And I felt like I need Seattle representation here. I know there's some other guys that are good, but that's who I went with. Is my team going to go 17-0 with these cornerbacks?
I think you will go 17-0, especially with these two. Witherspoon's the more hitting, cornerback. He's a good man-to-man coverage. Obviously, Patrick Surtain is the best one of both of them. There's no question about that one. You could have gone Derek Stingley from Houston, but you already picked your Houston Texans player, and you went with Willie Anderson. Can't argue that one.
I was half typing his name in when I picked the other corner, Stingley. So yeah.
Christian Gonzalez, I think he will. Sauce Gardner. You can go with those two guys right there. There's this young core of cornerbacks in the NFL right now are just absolutely. I think this is the best young core we've seen in a long time, Scott. Honestly, I think.
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
Because unfortunately, we don't have the NBA has the first, second, and third teams. If we had all pro first, second, and third teams, all 6 of those guys would take up all the spots in the corner position. That's how good they are. So, but I love Witherspoon. He obviously went to Illinois, and I love Patrick Surtain the second. To me, he's the best corner in the NFL.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good corners in the NFL. A lot of them. We're not even mentioning some of them, and they're still good. So.
I 100%.
Okay, kicker. We got to have a kicker. We have to have a punter.
Yes.
And I went with Brandon Aubrey with the Cowboys, who had a phenomenal year, who has a leg that just does not stop kicking. And I know he's a young guy, a relatively new guy, but man, if I know I can kick the ball from anywhere and score points, and I've got the team I have, I want that weapon, and he's the one that can do it.
I 100% agree. I think if you're a guy that's challenging Justin Tucker's field goal percentage from 60 pass, and we all know how strong Justin Tucker's leg was when he was in the NFL. The guy can make 62, 66. He's just up there. If Brandon Aubrey is a guy that can challenge that, absolutely has to be on your 17-0 perfect team. The kid, he just has a phenomenal leg, knows how to hook it. He's got that little golf touch where, kickers will sometimes hook it so far left or right. He just has that way where he can hook it back in the middle.
A.J. Cole from the Raiders is the punter. And number one, statistically, he was the best punter in the NFL. But he played for the Raiders, and part of why you get to be the best punter is you're on a sucky team offensively that's punt all the time.
Yeah.
So that can be a good and a bad thing. But if you're on a sucky team and you still punt well, then that means you're very consistent at punting. And I think that's what I want. I want a guy that I can get a consistent distance from, and so that's why I picked AJ.
No argument out of me. I don't know a whole lot about the punting stats from last season, but I'll take your word on it. This guy, like you say, you're on a terrible team that doesn't know how to get a first down. You're going to be a very, very highly talked about guy around the locker room going, hey, nice job punting it inside the 30 or the 20 or the 10 or the 1. If you got those type of stats, back them up.
All right, there you have it. That team will not be beaten. That is essentially we're saying the best players at their positions in the NFL. I know it's highly debatable. I'm sure Zach is just like steaming there about his Houston Texans, and rightfully so, because they have one of the best defenses in the NFL. And they have the best defense in the NFL. All right, we're going to take a break. We come back. We have a great question. I believe Martin is going to ask me a question. I think it's a great one. You want to stick around to find out what that question is and the answer right here on the Down and Dirty when we return shortly.
Hey, it's Matt Mosley of The Matt Mosley Show. We want you to watch our show every day, 1 to 3 on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. And you get to see big name guests like Gary Patterson, Art Briles, Scott Drew, Doug McNamee, major Cowboys insiders, ESPN legends like Sal Palantonio. When news breaks on Cowboys or Baylor or NFL, we want you to look here first. 1 to 3 weekdays. It's the Matt Mosley Show.
For 75 years, Nalgene Outdoor has been your trusted companion, fueling adventures and helping protect the planet. We're committed to reducing waste, improving access to clean water, and providing simple, safe, and sustainable products for you and your family. No gimmicks, just durable, well-designed bottles built to last. Join us on our mission to amplify life, not complicate it. Because at Nalgene, what goes into our bottles matters as much as the adventures they fuel. Explore more at nalgene.com. That's NALGENE.com.
I know you're gonna love this Kodak Dot Plus printer. You guys just connect it to your smartphone and then you're gonna use the Kodak Photo Print app. It's going to print you a 4x6 photo. I am just in awe. I love how these turned out. Also, the printer comes with a free cartridge of 10 photo sheets. I can assure you, you are going to love this printer as much as my family has. You guys have to check it out for yourself.
Hey, it's Zach Gelb. We're talking NFL and college football. Plus, we have some of the biggest interviews in sports media. You got to check out the Zach Gelb Show right here on 365 Sports, weekdays, 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 to 3 p.m. Central. And make sure you subscribe to my channel, youtube.com/@Zach Gelb Show.
Hey, sports fans, welcome back. It's the Down and Dirty. Scott Mitchell. Thank you. It's Friday. We're having fun today. We're picking 17 and 0. Wouldn't that be fun to just go out and go, yeah, I want that guy and that guy and that guy, and you just never lose. I have to, there's levels of like excitement and I don't know, emotion from professional sports. So there's the emotion of a player, because people are always going, what's it like to play? And you go, there's like nothing like it. It's unbelievable. It's incredible. Then there's the coaching perspective, and it's a different satisfaction. One with the player, you're doing it, you're executing the plays, you're performing, you're beating the other team, you're throwing touchdowns, you're winning games. That's just, it's a performance in front of millions of people with a lot on the line, and that's that's a rush. A massive rush. Then you have the coach, right? And so the coach he doesn't perform. What he does is he inspires, he directs, he orchestrates, he prepares, he teaches, and he corrects, and which is part of teaching. But so now what you're doing is you're saying, I'm going to gather a collective group of people, and we're going to go into battle and we're going to succeed. So so it's a totally different buzz or, satisfaction, or you get a huge charge out of being a coach and succeeding, and also a high level of stress and frustration and anxiety because you have no control, right? And you have some control because you can bench players, you can play players, you can, have a really strong discussion with those players, whether it's during the week or at halftime or on the sideline, whatever. So you're not totally just helpless. Then you have the front office people, and we kind of got to play front office there in that last segment, where we were like, okay, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna evaluate these players, and I'm gonna get the very best ones I can, and we're gonna put them all together and throw them in the soup here and see if we've come up with something that's quite savory and memorable and effective. And that's a different satisfaction. I imagine how cool it would be to go, yeah, I picked that guy, I saw something in that guy, I got that guy, or we finagled our way to get this guy or that guy or whatever. And so I'm sure there's a tremendous amount of satisfaction that goes into that part of the job as well. All right. Martin has a question.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to pose a question to me, and I am going to answer your question.
Yeah. My question to you is which championship is harder to win in college, and why? Is it the March Madness tournament and to be crowned the national champion, or the college football playoff national championship?
I'm going to pick C. No, I'm just kidding. It's a great question. Two very different championships. but there's some similarities, right? Because you have to get selected for both. So there's a college football playoff selection committee, there's a March Madness selection committee, and there's always Selection Sunday, where these two things. And so the challenge of it, partially is this idea of, the subjective nature, where, well, we really like that you did this, and it has nothing to do with winning or losing. You were in this conference, or like with a March Madness, it's like, well, these are good losses. It's like, yeah, and so it's so subjective, and it's like, yeah, you lost to like a really sucky team, or you lost to a really good, it matters, or yeah, you won a lot of games, but you didn't play anybody. So there's this, you can get knocked down or up or whatever, not for winning, but for style points, or for the strength of your schedule, or all these different things. And yeah, I think it matters to a point, but still, it's just opinion. It's not like, okay, who's really, in charge, and who's really, who's really won the most. And so that, and both of these sports have that. So I think football is much harder. I think it's much more subjective, only because there's only 12 teams that get in, and that's new. That's just been a couple of years old. Whereas March Madness, has been around for a while. There's 68 teams to get to 64. There's a lot of schools that wouldn't even be considered. You'd be laughed at if you were, considered for the playoffs in some of these football schools. And yet some of these Cinderella teams win in basketball. I think basketball, the whole nature of the tournament maybe is a little bit more vetting, in that you have to play multiple rounds, and you play in different locations, different settings, different teams. It feels like those teams that, get to the championship, probably are the most deserving. Not always, sometimes you have a bad night as a basketball team and you lose a game. And so it's kind of tough. It's kind of tough where you get down to the end of March Madness and your legs are kind of fried. So sometimes it's like, do you have a better bench? Do you have some depth on your team to keep your team a little fresher? So there's a lot of little factors that go into it. I think from a viewing perspective, March Madness is just a great event. It goes on for a long time. You certainly would be fun to be a part of. The college football playoffs have expanded. Some of the early games, you kind of argue, are pretty much duds. So, are they really that good? I don't know. But I like them. I like them better than having the bowl games that they've had in the past. It still feels like there's just a few people that are invited to the dance. You look at Texas, Ohio State, considered the top teams in the country. Neither one of them even made the playoffs. You look at Alabama, I believe made the playoffs, but didn't have any kind of significant run. So you're going to get I think a better chance of getting a real champion, as opposed to the paper champion, the preconceived champions of this. For me, I would rather win a college football national championship, period. But I can certainly see how enticing or how exciting a college basketball championship win. And I think your question was, which one matters more to win? Like, to me, college national football would definitely be the one, especially at the expanded playoffs. It makes you feel like you're really winning it and someone's not just handing it to you. March Madness, it feels like you got to really earn it. And that's been in the case for a while. But look, in the world of sports, if sports was a chessboard, which chess piece trumps the other one? Football trumps everything, and basketball is always second place. All right, we're going to take a break. We come back. We got some hot news going on in the NFL. You don't want to miss that. So much more on this fantastic Friday. Having some fun with you here on the Down and Dirty. We'll be back in just a minute.
The Pete Souza Show, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. You want to talk NFL draft? I don't know. How about we get you Todd McShay? You want to talk Big 12? We can get you the commissioner. Somebody about the Cowboys? How about we have on the owner, Stephen Jones? Pop culture? Michelle Beadle. I mean, we will bring on the people that you want to hear from. And these people don't join us because of me. They join us because of you. You got to watch this show, okay? It's got everything you need. Sports, hijinks, laughs. Did I mention hijinks? We'll see you on the Pete Souza Show. Now, we are under the 365 Sports umbrella. Check it out. I'm wearing a Tulane shirt. No idea why.
It's the Pete Souza Show. Sports.
Tervis is all about staying hydrated with style and durability. You can trust Tervis tumblers to keep your drinks the perfect temperature, hot or cold, for hours. From the classic insulated tumblers to sleek stainless steel water bottles, each product is built to last and comes in endless designs to match your personality. Stay refreshed and express yourself with Tervis. Visit tervis.com today and find your perfect tumbler.
Sports don't stop, and neither do we. Welcome to 365 Sports, your home for real conversations, original shows, and coverage that lives where sports actually happen. Join David Smoke, Craig Smoke, and myself, Paul Catalina, for in-depth interviews and local stories to the moments national media misses. 365 Sports brings you the voices, debates, and perspectives fans care about every single day. Subscribe now on YouTube, search 365 Sports, and never miss a moment because sports aren't seasonal. They're 365.
Sports fans, welcome back to the Down and Dirty. I'm Scott Mitchell, your host. So glad you could be a part of our show. Thank you for tuning in. Please like and subscribe, do all that fun stuff because we like you, you like us. We're one big happy family. If you can name that tune, you go back a ways. Of course, that's when some of my older children were young, and now my younger children are old. Zach might know the name of that song. Of course, it's from Barney the Dinosaur. When you're a young parent, you have to painfully live through the whatever iteration of children's television there is in the world today. And for me, it was Barney the Dinosaur, which was that purple dinosaur. And I love Barney the Dinosaur. Actually, I got into him. People ultimately were offended by there's the Wiggles. My younger kids were into the Wiggles, older kids into Barney the Dinosaur. There you have it. All right, let's move on from kids television programming into the adult stuff. And let's get a little down and dirty here with the NFL. Of course, our NFL news of notes, always hot stuff going on in the NFL. And there's a lot of like signings, tradings. Trent McDuffie gets traded, a lot of other people get traded, this and that and whatever. Well, the Houston Texans are not trading anyone. In fact, they have extended Daniel Hunter with a 1-year, $40 million contract extension. Now you go, okay, that's nice, but it's like way nice. And the reason it's way nice is you have one of your top players on the top defense in the NFL, and you want to keep as many other top players around as you possibly can. And so you go, thank you so much for being such a great player. We're going to kind of restructure your deal, this is the second time they've done this, and give you more money up front. So those are some of the maneuvering, finagling kind of things that happen. I actually had this happen to me in my career, and it's kind of a funny conversation. They go, hey, we want to kind of extend your deal. And what we'll do is we'll just extend it out. We'll give you more of a signing bonus. It just kind of pushes more money out into the future. And you're sitting there and you're going, well, you're just going to give me a whole bunch of money right now. I mean, is that what you're trying to say to me? They're like, basically, can you help us out? And it's almost like they're they're almost begging you in that situation. And I always think it's funny because I'm like, it's not even a hard question to answer. You're just like, of course, yeah, give me more money right now today. I will be happy to do that. You almost try to feel like, yeah, I'm taking one for the team. I'm really helping everybody out here. I'm really, and internally you go, they're giving me money right now. Like, why would I not want to do that? And you feel kind of selfish. You're like, but you just go along with it. You're just like, yes, I will be a good team player, and I will put more money in my pocket today for the good of the team. If that's what it takes, then that's what I'm going to do. So I love these deals. They're not for everyone because teams because they're not like, they pick the players that they are most confident in that are going to be around for the longest period of time. So they don't want to give free money to people that aren't going to be around. So I guess it's a nice thing. It's a vote of confidence. They say, yes, we like you, we love you, and you're worth it. So here you go. Former Green Bay Packer team president Bob Harlan dies at 89. Of course, he is the father of longtime broadcaster Kevin Harlan, who I think does a phenomenal job, and so did Bob Harlan. Bob Harlan, of course, was with the Packers back in my day when they had Super Bowl wins with Ron Wolf, and in fact, Bob Harlan did something that no one else ever did, and that is he won Super Bowls with two different GMs with completely different rosters. And think about that. And that might be one of the most remarkable feats in all of the NFL, only because you don't get opportunity like you get a GM and you get a coach and you kind of go, okay, we're going to ride this out for a while, but eventually the light's going to flicker out. You're going to run out of good players. You're going to have some lean years. You're going to have to figure out how to retool things. And people go, yeah, we don't have the patience for that. You're out. Fire the coach, fire the GM, get rid of them. We're moving in a different direction, or fire the team president, And so to be able to kind of re-engineer and reinvent yourself multiple times as an organization speaks to the quality of the people that are really behind everything that's going on. And I think what's and Bob Harlan, was Mr. Packer. I mean, he was with the organization for so many years in so many different capacities, but truly was one of the most remarkable presidents of an NFL franchise. I know, very well respected, very well liked, and you always know this when so many people, you hear them go, man, he changed my life. Like, he changed my life forever. Like the impact he had on my life was something that I'll never forget. And you just hear this over and over and over again. And I don't know that there's a better compliment or a better tribute to an individual when their time is done and they pass from this life and everyone goes, that guy made a difference in my life. He changed my life. Like, without him, I would never. And I know personally that would be what I would love to have people say to me, like, you have no idea the impact you had on my life, and to really pay their respects and to have respect for an individual. So, of course, our condolences and go out to Bob Harlan's family and all those good people. But truly, one of the really good ones in the NFL for sure. So here's another thing: the Chargers have actually agreed to a $30 million contract with Tyler Biadasz from, I believe Tyler was with the Washington Commanders. And this was a bit of a surprise, only from a team that wasn't really, they didn't have a bad offensive line. They had a pretty solid line. The line wasn't necessarily the challenge or issues with the Washington Commanders. So this was, I would say, somewhat of a surprise about this exchange. Now, I believe, if I'm right, please, Martin, let me know if I'm wrong on this one, but I think the Chargers have a ridiculous amount of a cap room. Did I read that right today? Like in the tune of $90 million.
Yeah, the
So
only other team that has more money than them is the Titans, who almost have like 100 million in free agency money.
I thought you were going to say the only one who had more money than them was God. I really did. I thought you were going to say that, but yeah. So it's quite an exciting thing where there's a lot you can do, and you can get super aggressive out on the free agency market. And if the Chargers going to be a team to really watch, because they were so close a year ago, had some injuries on that defense and some other places, and definitely Justin Herbert, who got pummeled a few times from an offensive line that was challenged. That's going to be one of those things. Boy, they can figure out a few of their holes through free agency, quite a few of their holes. This is a team that's going to be they're going to be a real contender next year. And if they get it, if they do it, if they don't, then no. But they certainly in a great position to be able to do that moving forward. And this is kind of their first move, and a solid pick. It's certainly an upgrade. It'll be at the center position, but one that I think they'll feel good about. Okay, so the Max Crosby trade rumors are heating up, and Martin, he's been linked to the Cowboys, the Ravens, and are some of the teams, but they kind of want a Micah Parsons type of package for him. Where does Max Crosby go? What do you think is the best fit for him? I mean, why not go to the Chargers? They got more money than God.
That's not a bad option. Like you said, that the asking price for the Raiders is that they want 2 first-round picks, and possibly a player for Max Crosby. They want a ready player. They don't want a project. They want somebody who can slot into their defense or their offense immediately. The reports are that the Dallas Cowboys almost had a deal done 2 days ago. It was working in the middle of the night, and then something fell through where the Cowboys weren't willing to give up 2 first-round picks for Max Crosby. They were trying to do a deal of a first and a couple seconds for Max Crosby. Dallas didn't want to give up all their draft capital, which I don't blame them. The Ravens are interesting. They don't have really the cap space for it, but they could make it if they don't decide to go after Tyler Linderbaum, who will be the most coveted center in free agency when it starts. Other teams interested are obviously Seattle Seahawks, Chicago Bears, San Francisco 49ers. I think out of those 3 teams plus the Cowboys, I'm going to leave biasy out of it. I would love for him to be on the Bears. There's no denying that part. But I think Seattle makes a whole lot of sense in my eyes, because I think if he wants to contend immediately, wants to play in the best division and prove that he's one of the best players, I think Seattle makes a whole lot of sense. It obviously will have come down to cap space, but to me, Seattle makes a whole lot of sense. Why not go up to that defense? McDonald's style fits him. He's a 4-3 type player. He'll just absolutely shred everybody in the NFC West. I would love to see that against the Rams and the Niners. I'm watching that game every single week. I don't care if it's at 8 o'clock and I got to stay up until midnight. I'm watching that game every week to see Max Crosby versus Brock Purdy and versus Matt Stafford. That would just be absolutely entertaining.
Yeah, it's really with Max Crosby, it's a really unique dynamic in that you're going to have to give up a lot to get him, but you get him and he's going to make a huge impact for your team, and it's really like, who's the most ready to win now team that can give up those picks to get a player like that, and it could be massively enticing, because the reality is you don't have the future in the NFL. You don't have the luxury of looking down the road and it's what have you done what have you done for me lately, what can you get right now, what kind of impact can you get for that. And a team like Seattle, boy, it just makes it it goes through the roof what potentially you could do, or a team very close to that, very close to winning it all, that could certainly benefit, and that's the willingness to trade a player and to give up those picks. So yeah, I don't know if the Cowboys are a team that I don't know if I don't know how ready they are to win. I know he'd have a huge impact on the team,
Yeah.
and maybe it'd be one of those things that Jerry Jones says, I planned this all along. I wanted to get Max Crosby here. I had to get rid of some things. I got rid of them, but now I got them back, and I did, blah blah blah, whatever. I could certainly see that, but I just see him going somewhere, and I don't know who's really close, willing to give up for that. But it's, I mean, what would the Kansas City Chiefs look like? Maybe I don't know, because there's a lot of familiarity there, of course, with Max Crosby. I don't know if they trade him in the division. That's kind of a poo-poo type of thing. So another thing here before I go to break. Anyway, so it'll be fun to watch Max Crosby. But another thing before we go to break is they apparently have restructured Deshaun Watson's deal. And I just found this fascinating only because it feels like he's on his way out the door. And it's like we just got to live with this. And of course, restructuring his deal allows them to have more flexibility. And so it may be one of those situations where they gave him a little bit of bonus money and it reduces his cap space because he's a big hit on their cap situation. And it would just be the most Cleveland Brown thing to do is to have Deshaun Watson in the very end of this deal actually play like lights out, like, and just, and then they go, shoot, what do we do now? Right. Because it's like, it just feels like this albatross that's been hung over their neck. And then they gotta, now, and then of course, what would happen is they would sign him to another long-term ridiculous deal. And then he'd be injured through the whole thing, and it'd just be like, are you kidding me? Or they just need to go, we don't care. We don't care if you take us to and win the Super Bowl. You're never going to be here anymore. That's it. You're gone. You're out. You're done. But stranger things have happened, and stranger things in Cleveland have happened, and I wouldn't be surprised if the strangeness continued with Deshaun Watson.
I 100% agree with that. I think it would be quite funny to sign him to a $320 million guaranteed contract, and then this be the last season where you had to take all that cap hit and all of that money, and then next season is his release here where you can just let him go, not have to deal with it anymore. You got that under your belt, right? And then he goes out and balls out, and then they got to get into the situation of do we keep him or do we don't? But I see the other side of that coin is if Deshaun Watson gets released by Cleveland, and let's say he has a solid season, let's say they decide to roll the dice and play him, what team out there is going to take a slice at him and say, okay, we'll bring on this PR nightmare, but what if he wins 12 games? What if he wins 10 games? What if he wins, a couple playoff games for us? Do we take the heat in order to actually be successful? To me, next year's free agency with Deshaun Watson is going to be so much fun to watch, and it's going to be so interesting to see what happens.
Well, I think with the quarterbacks like him and Kyler Murray, maybe Tua, that they're going to get kind of minimum deals, and they're going to get kind of show me status. It's like you got something you got to prove, you got to reestablish yourself along whatever line. So for these quarterbacks, whoever they are and wherever they go, they need to make sure they go to a place that really fits, what they can do, and that they have a chance to revive themselves. You can be a good player and go to a bad spot, and it makes it worse, and it makes the perception of you worse. And Sam Darnold went through that a little bit, and then he was fortunate to get to the 49ers, get to the Minnesota Vikings, because I don't know that it was a full committal to Sam Darnold. Like, oh yeah, boy, we really 1-1 with Sam Darnold here. I think they said, all right, Sam Darnold, come into Seattle. We're not, you're not getting this massive long-term deal type of thing. We're going to see. And I think that's still the case in Seattle, because there were still some time, Sam Darnold didn't turn the ball over in the playoffs at all, but he had a problem during the season, and he wasn't like phenomenally great statistically during the season. So maybe he gets better, maybe he gets more familiar and comfortable with the situation and plays better from a year from now. But I still think it's on I know you won a Super Bowl with us, but we feel that was a pretty team type of thing happening. And in order to commit to a big time long-term deal with you, I'm sure we would have to see a lot more. All right. Fun stuff though. Regardless, it's always fun to talk about and see where it heads and watch it as it unfolds. Got some hot headlines when we return here on the Down and Dirty. Don't want to miss it. Yeah, some crazy things that happened in sports when the Down and Dirty returns shortly.
Hi, my name is Mike Lacey. I'm with Beyond the Game, a new podcast to the Rogue Media Network. Just when you thought you'd had a little bit too much about BYU, here we are to provide you even a little bit more. I, as part of the BYU group, am grateful that we're part of the Big 12 and really grateful that we're part of the Rogue Media Network. Thank you.
Circulon C1 Series Clad with Scratch Defense Non-Stick. The luxury and confidence of premium clad stainless steel meets Scratch Defense Extreme Non-Stick that won't scratch, ever. With an ultra-thick aluminum core for high-performance heating. Maximize cooking, minimize cleaning. Discover the unmatched durability and elegance of clad stainless steel. Scratch-free, worry-free, forever.
Protect your online privacy with NordVPN. Browse securely, access content from anywhere, and keep your data safe with military-grade encryption. Whether at home or on the go, NordVPN ensures your digital freedom. Stay secure. Download NordVPN today at nordvpn.com. That's NORDVPN.com.
Are you looking for top-shelf sports talk about the West Virginia Mountaineers, where you can get objective analysis, but with the passion of a fan? Well, look no further than right here at Couz's Corner. I am Justin Couz Walker, the host of Couz's Corner, and you can find my show on demand over at YouTube. Most shows are uploaded by 5 p.m. Eastern Time. You can also check out my live post-game reaction shows. My special guest interviews, you can find it all on YouTube at Couz's Corner. Go check it out.
Hey, sports fans, welcome back. It's the Down and Dirty. Oh boy, we have some hot headlines for you, and they are kind of down and dirty. They really are. And well, some of them are. Yeah, they're just always the hot headlines. We love them. So they're kind of things happening in all across the sports world that we found were things of note, things that you want to hear. And man, they're hot. They're like beyond hot. Okay, to start with. Former Cal State Bakersfield assistant coach Kevin Mays is in jail, and he's waiting charges for allegedly multiple allegations, and one of which includes he's a pimp. So it's drug, it's guns, it's a bunch of other things, but he apparently has been pimping out women or a woman allegedly. Remind you, this is allegedly. And we seem to run into these headlines all the time of people who are in these positions of a good situation. Now it's Cal State Bakersfield. I mean, it's not, but it's a job. It's the stepping stone. It's the start. It's your foot in the door kind of thing. It's it's your chance to kind of move forward. And I always scratch my head when I see stuff like this at any level in any sport. And I understand that we're human beings, and I understand that we have enticings, or we're influenced, or we make decisions based on a lot of things and a lot of pressures in our life. And money does funny things to a lot of people. If I've learned something in my life, money, the lack of money and the abundance of money do crazy things to people. You would normally go, man, I didn't think they felt that way. And they do, whether it's family or friends or acquaintances or, you have people that are, at least in my situation, they were, constantly you were a target for things. And it's really hard sometimes to kind of keep your head on straight clearly, because you see things like this and you're just like, what in the world are you thinking when you do this? And clearly you're not, or you're under the pressure of something. So I don't know that I've heard of like DUIs, and I've heard of, selling drugs and gambling. Of course, we're running into some of those issues, but pimping was one I had not heard yet. So I have now heard everything there possibly is. Nothing will surprise me ever again. But this one was certainly close to taking the cake on the most bizarre thing. I mean, we've had people murder other people in sports, and but I've never heard of it. Maybe I'm wrong. Martin, do we know of any other coaches or athletes that have been pimps before? I think pimp is such a weird. It feels like it's a 1970s word. Like the kids use pimp today. Is it still the same thing? Even as I say it, it's making me kind of cringe to say it.
It's not the old New York City days where all the pimps had Lincoln Continentals
Right?
and they
Yeah.
kept an eye on all their
Yeah.
women and
They had the
walked
fur
around
coat
and
and the big old
the
shaggy
big
hat and glasses and boots and bell bottoms. Yeah. Yeah. Got it.
It's not the boogie days anymore.
Right.
I don't know if there's stuff like this
Has
going
there ever
on.
been? I mean, I understand that there's a pimp, I understand this stuff goes on, but I just didn't know coaches or former players have gotten involved in this.
The only story
I just needed some clarification. It's all
absolutely. The only story I know that has anything to kind of similar to do with this is that Rick Pitino Louisville story where like he sent out like all the where he sent kids out on trips with the players on recruits, and they decided to go to a strip club, and they had a little bit too much fun with girls, and they went back to dorm rooms, and you can't have underage kids having a good old time with a stripper. So I mean that's a real red flag no. But that's the only story I can think about that comes anywhere close to this.
Yeah, it's the only story we know of.
Yeah, that's the only one I know of.
Well, I know in the NBA they kind of had their little network of people in all the cities, and they did stuff like that before. So but yeah, I don't know how they coordinated all that, and I doubt a player was ever the one in charge of coordinating. So Shohei Ohtani hits a grand slam last night for the start of the World Baseball Classic, and of course in a route from Japan over Taiwan. So was this the first game in the world?
Yeah, this was
How long
their.
does this go on? I need to understand.
So the World Baseball Classic will go on for a couple weeks. It won't take long. There's only 4 games that they got to play in the group stage, and then they get to the quarterfinals, semifinals, and the championship. So it won't take too long for players to go back to their spring trainings and get ready for the season. Shohei Ohtani hits a grand slam, as you said. This was in the early innings this morning. Excuse me, against Taiwan, as we were sleeping at, and if you woke up at 3 a.m., then you would have been ready to watch this game. Unfortunately, I was not. But overall, Shohei Ohtani hasn't really lost any bat speed or at anything at all. He picks up right where he left off last season, winning the World Series, walks in and hits a grand slam. I mean, what else do you expect from one of the greatest baseball players of all time?
So they're in the middle of spring training.
Yes.
And the kind of the comments out of the Dodgers were Shohei was like dialed into being a very productive pitcher and hitter this year. And so there was a lot of like, okay, so he's off to Tokyo, Japan to play in in the world. Is it held all around the world then? I mean,
It's held in, so it's regional to begin with. So like Puerto Rico and all the Caribbean countries are playing in the Caribbean right now. Obviously, Australia, Chinese Taipei, Taiwan, and excuse me, Chinese Taipei is Taiwan, Japan and Korea are all playing in Asia right now, in Japan. And then obviously the closer teams like Mexico, USA, and Canada are all playing. Great Britain are all playing in America at the moment. So it's regional, and then it works its way over to America, where they'll have all the quarterfinals, semifinals, and the final game. The only thing with Shohei Ohtani in this is that he won't be pitching; he's just
Yeah.
hitting. So the Dodgers said no pitching. He can only hit because the insurance companies didn't want to cover
Right.
if of an injury, and that kind of makes sense. You don't want your top guy throwing his arm out before the start of a season.
No. Yeah. No, that's actually, I'm glad to hear that. But wow, I was of the impression that it all happened around spring training, but they actually go around the world, which I did not know. So I know I sound ignorant and probably, but that makes it even more impressive. So we'll see how that works out. Okay, LeBron James set another record. What record did LeBron James set? It was the most field goals by a Laker or NBA. So he passes actually Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Kareem to me is such an interesting player because everyone talks about how great, and Kareem was really a great player. Kind of, a little bit how do I say, like mysterious. Like he seemed like he was mad at the world. You never really quite understood or knew how he felt. You wondered if, is he really playing hard all the time? And does he even care? Does he have the emotion button in his body, I guess is the thing. But you watch, and if you ever watch old highlights, like here's your what's the word? Here's your homework assignment from the Down and Dirty. Go over the weekend and just do Kareem Abdul-Jabbar skyhook highlights, and it'll blow you away. How and it's just this deadly shot that's extremely accurate, and I don't know how he did it. Like it's such an unusual motion, and he just nailed it. And it was so like unstoppable. Like it's like, here comes Kareem, and he's gonna go, and he gets it so high and so up and so that it's impossible to block this shot. And yet it's like, why did not more people do that? Why do they not do it today? I mean, I know the center position kind of extinct in the NBA right now, but whatever happened to the sky hook? I'm just telling you, like I watched it and I was scratching my head just looking at this, just going, this is so bizarre, and yet it's so effective. So LeBron, I know this is about LeBron because everything's about LeBron, but he's made more field goals in his career now than Kareem, who played a lot earlier. And LeBron just keeps ticking. You just really wonder how long he goes. But the fascinating thing about LeBron James and the really impressive thing is, I think there was a figure where he spent over $1 million a year in the process of making sure his body was in its absolute prime condition, whether it was through nutrition or medical treatments or recovery treatments or strength training or nutrition, every aspect of his body. And it was I want to say it was about $1.5 million a year just on prepping his body. And people can think what they want about whatever, but it's a massively impressive thing to me to just say, this is the level of commitment I have to play this game at a high level for as long as I possibly can. And he does it. And you see more and more of these athletes doing the same types of things to have a longer and a much more effective and successful career even later on into your career. So hats off to LeBron and hats off to Kareem for the skyhook. Okay, this one, this one, I don't know how I feel about this one, and I don't know how hot a headline. So South Alabama and Coastal Carolina, of course, they're in their conference tournament playing basketball. It's women's basketball, and they get into a massive brawl. That I mean, an official got. I was watching. I was like, "Holy cow!" Now, I think I think I've learned something, and I just take this for what it's worth. Women, when they play sports, they are vicious. They are vicious, and they're vicious from the standpoint of they're not taking crap from anybody. They play. I mean, you look at what they did to Caitlin Clark, my daughter who played high school basketball, and I coached, and these girls, like, they're pulling hair, they're pushing, they're talking junk to each other. Like, women playing sports against each other are not nice, not nice at all. And I had this experience. I was living in Florida, in Orlando, Florida, and they kind of have these their little matches, right? So you play your match play champion of your golf course, and so you play match play against someone, and so this is the finals, and these two women start playing. Now, what you had is where I lived is, I lived where I had a golf cart in my garage with my golf clubs on it, and I would drive a block to the golf course. And there's a driving range, and you start, and it's a great place, awesome place. And so everyone who lived there had basically their golf clubs on their golf cart. Now, a lot of times you practiced, right? So you have extra clubs, extra devices, extra everything, and you didn't think anything of it. And it was just kind of how it was. And it was kind of an unwritten rule, whatever, and no one talked about it except this situation. These two women match play champion, they're playing each other, and the one woman wins. And then the lady who she's playing against says, you had more than 14 clubs in your bag, and never brought it up until the whole thing was over, but never looked past it either. Now, I know it's the rules and it's the rules of golf, but in that situation, it's kind of like, yeah, that people aren't going to call you out on it, and it's not a big deal, type of thing. It's not like you're trying to cheat or anything. But not these women. No. And I'm just telling you, I don't know that I could play women's sports, because I don't know that I could, and they say mean things. Women are tough in sports. I'll just say that. All right, here we go. That's all we have for that. Come back. We're going to do a Would You Rather. So we're going to play a little game. You guys get to play along at home and do all that stuff. Always love the Would You Rathers with Martin. So we'll end our week with Would You Rather when the Down and Dirty returns.
If you want a Boston sports show that's going to insult you as a fan and only cares about getting back at their old hosts or who Bill Belichick is dating, then keep tuning your radio. But if you want a sports show that's wicked good, wicked smart, wicked passionate, then you need the Wicked Boston Show with me, Cam Stewart. It is the only Boston sports talk show that is by the fans and for the fans. One voice in this city, where the only BS is Boston sports. The Wicked Boston Show.
You probably get unwanted emails almost every single day.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com. That's CLEAN email.com. Get paid faster with Bill, the easiest way to send, receive, and manage your payments. No more delays, no more hassle. Whether you're a freelancer or a business, Bill makes payments seamless and secure, simple, fast, and reliable. Sign up today at Bill.com.
Hey, sports fans, welcome back. Down and Dirty. Scott Mitchell. So glad you could be a part of our show today. It's Friday. Let's go have some fun. Let's get down and dirty. We're doing it right now. So we continue with the show. Thank you for being a part of what we are all about. Like us, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. We appreciate and value you as well. You're our partners. We're friends, partners in crime, in getting down and dirty in sports. All right, we're going to play a game today. Of course, this is under our game. What are you, the game meister? Are you the commissioner of games on Down and Dirty? Martin Harris. He's come up with a game to play. We like to play games from time to time because, hey, sports is games. Like gaming is our life. Let's do it. All right, what do you got for us today, Martin?
You bring up that I'm like the game maker. Who is the long Bob Barker? I'm the Bob Barker of the Down and Dirty. Okay.
How do you like that, Bob Barker?
I wish I had the elongated little skinny microphone that he had on show. I gotta find one of those and bring it on as a prop. I gotta do that. That's some homework for me, dude.
As the kids say, that was dope, man. That was a dope. Love it. All right. Let's do this.
All right, Scott, an NFL edition of Would You Rather, okay? Ooh. So I'm going to change it up a little bit, all right? So if you play at home, Would You Rather is you decide either A or B of the scenarios, and everybody goes home with a gold star on their forehead, and they can put it on the fridge so everyone can see it later in the day. But, Scott, let's start with this. Would you rather see Kyler Murray, newly free agent quarterback, go to the Minnesota Vikings or the Atlanta Falcons, the top two teams that are interested in bringing in Kyler Murray?
Ooh. Yeah, so here's why I think these teams are interested. They're interested because they have quarterbacks that are kind of in that year. And that year of you better put up or shut up. We need performance from you. They've kind of been given the red carpet treatment. In other words, they've been on scholarship. There hasn't been a lot of expectation. There's like, let's develop you. Let's bring you along slowly. And now it's like, we need to see something because we haven't to this point. Or at least enough to go, yeah, you're the guy that we're going to hang our hat on. And so they like a guy like Kyler Murray, who's like hungry, who wants vengeance, who wants to reestablish themselves, who's going to come in and compete. And also if these teams have a guy like Kyler Murray who comes in and really moves the needle, then all the better for them. They don't care. It's like, great. We're at that point now where we're not married to Michael Penix Jr. or J.J. McCarthy. So you can see that makes the most sense. And I think that their evaluation is they say Kyler Murray to us is the top guy to fit this bill, even over a guy like Tua, because I don't know how motivated Tua is in that, and I don't know how capable he is because Kyler Murray, it feels like probably has a little bit more gas in the tank at this point than Tua does. Where does he go? Where would I rather see him go? I'm going to say, so to me, Kyler Murray has always been, I'm not a fan of dual threat guys. I'm just not. I don't like it. I never have liked it. And so for me, I want to see him go to Minnesota and stop being a dual threat quarterback. And really, let's see if he can, because Kyler Murray has an arm, can throw the football. Can he really dial in? Can he be honed in? Can he be reined in a little bit with Kevin O'Connell? And I want to see that. I want to know for myself, is Kyler Murray done in the NFL or not? And I think if he went to Minnesota, you'd have a better idea of whether he is. And I think it would be the best place for him, quite frankly. I think Atlanta would allow him to kind of still be that freewheeling, crazy running guy. And I don't think Kyler Murray wants to be that guy. So I'm going to say Minnesota. There's my answer.
All right, that's a good pick right there. All right, let's stay with quarterbacks. Would you rather see the Dolphins keep Tua or release the QB and let him go out in the free agency market?
No, it just feels like, there are times when both teams need to kind of take a break and just move in a different direction, and this certainly feels like one of those. I think you've seen the very best of what Tua can be, and I don't think that's something you just go, yeah, we're gonna have a long term likeness to that, or and it's also a great time, new organization, new coach, new direction, and let's go. Now, Tua might be a good fit for a place like the Chargers, and maybe take a back seat for a few years. Depending on what happens, Justin Herbert, but he's got his former coach there, someone who knows him, someone who likes him. That's the kind of thing. But I would rather the Dolphins get rid of Tua and as opposed to keeping him.
All right, Scott. Would you rather see NFL free agency moved up to February or keep it in March?
It's certainly, they have a funny calendar because the calendar starts in March, and so they kind of and there's reasons for that, for contracts and I think the NFL would probably say no, we don't want to move it up because we want a chance now that the season is over, and that we can really sit down and we can really take a long, hard look at who we are as an organization. Where does all the fallout of our team, like guys retiring, because that's the thing, who's going to stick around, where does our budget fit, where are we as far as the development of our players? Are we keeping our coach? Are we, and there's a real time of being able to evaluate that. And I don't think anyone wants to do that until the season is completely over, till where do all the coaches move and shake out and everything happen. And I think they need that month of February to be able to do that. Now, from a fan perspective, it's like, man, I want to know yesterday. Like, what are y'all taking for so long? Like, this is kind of silly. Like, we're still waiting for free agency to happen. And I'm sure it's, can they get all this stuff done before February? Probably. Most teams can. I mean, because there's only 2 teams that are playing at the very end of it, so most of them get plenty of time. But I'm sure it's just about evaluating everything that's going on in the organization, from coaches, personnel, players, just the whole situation of what we're going to have and how we're going to move forward, and that takes time to develop that. So I'm speaking like a GM. I say keep it where it is.
All right, Scott, sticking along those lines there, would you like to see the NFL do away with the franchise tag, or is it okay for teams to control players like this?
Well, I think if you're any player in the NFL, you don't want the franchise tag. The franchise tag basically is a way of totally eliminating your ability to get the value that you're allowed on the open market. I think it's a bogus way for teams to hold a false leverage over a player, and no one likes it. And the reason you don't like it, it's like, well, yeah, you get the average, so you can get paid, but you're not, getting paid in the NFL is not a one-time deal. It's not a one-year deal. Getting paid in the NFL is a long-term contract at the maximum value you can get for whatever your worth is. And to be franchised is just, I think it's a cheap way for teams to kind of avoid that and maintain leverage. And really what it is it's really making a decision on a player, where you still get the player, you still get their talent, but you get it at a budgetary way. And they know that if that player goes out on the open market, he's going to get a lot more for what he deserves than he deserves, just because someone will overpay for him, because that's what happens with the market, is it gets competitive, and that's what you want. So it takes away the player's ability to negotiate and have leverage. Now, the other reason I think it should go away, or it should change, is its intention wasn't to preclude people from getting paid. It was to keep your top players in your organization so that you could build the brand around those players being on a team. And that was the franchise tag's intention. So it was like, you know, whoever our superstar is, we want to make sure we keep that superstar. He's the nucleus of our team, and should be paid accordingly. And if you can't have your top player, so you should use the franchise tag to go, we're going to pay our top player the fair market value of a contract at his position. And that but what they're using it for is to take someone that they don't think is their top player, and they're just trying to keep him on their team. And I don't think that's not how it was intended. It's not the right way to do it. It should be a long-term contract associated with a franchise tag. It's like, yep, we're going to franchise tag you, and that way we're going to sign you to a long-term deal. The players got hoodwinked on this. It was not fair. It was not right, and it should go away. But it won't.
Yeah.
It's not, because the league they have it, and they're going to hold on tight to it.
Owners don't want to give up the money. We all know that. All right, Scott, final question here. Would you rather see the NFL mandate teams go back to the original cities? The Raiders go back to Oakland. The Chargers go back to San Diego. The Texans would have to squeeze over and share some room with the Houston Oilers. Tennessee doesn't have a team anymore. You want to see this happen, or is the NFL landscape just the way it should be?
Well, I feel bad for these cities, and I feel bad for them because having a team is such an awesome community builder and identity and all of these things. And I really think that a lot of the challenges that happen why teams leave is because the cities they're in are poorly managed. And I think they don't see the vision of things. They see the value of things. And the NFL is a for-profit enterprise. So it's hard for us as fans. And it goes back to that whole franchise tag thing. You know, that's where the NFL is built on, players being in an organization for a long time. And they're just known for being, Emmitt Smith was always a Cowboy. And it just anything else is wrong. And that's kind of how we feel about our teams and our players. And I think, anything else than Oakland for the Raiders is just wrong. Now, Las Vegas to me kind of fits the Raiders. It in some ways it might even be a better thing for the Raiders. But there's certainly it's weird having the Chargers in Los Angeles, and that's a hard thing to kind of wrap your head around. Doesn't seem right. It seems that the Raiders in Los Angeles didn't even seem like the right thing. So, I'm okay to teams moving around, and I'm okay because I think sports fans deserve to have a team if they really want one. And if they don't really want one and it's not that big a deal to them, then they shouldn't have one. But there should be a team in San Diego. There's just a tremendous fan base there, and that's unfortunate that worked out the way that it did. All right. I believe that's it, Martin. Did I get a gold star today? That's all I want.
You did get a gold star, okay? Put it on top of the fridge. Tell your wife about it. Tell your kids about it. Tell them how proud you are of it, and hopefully they're proud of you as well for it.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. All right. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in this week. I hope you've had a good time. Have a great weekend. Be safe out there. Be smart out there. And come back on Monday because we got so much more that we'll chat about on Monday. So thanks, Mark. Thanks, Zach, for all you do. Thank you for tuning in to all you sports fans. This has been the Down and Dirty with Scott Mitchell. Until then, we'll see you then.